What's up, everybody, and welcome back to After the Snap. I'm your host. You know who I am, Tasha Pierce. Today, you know what it is Streams of the Sunday. This is when we take a streaming series and discuss it in far too much detail. um, yeah, today's episode. Oh, we also do a little thing called What You Watching? And I'm going to do that before we get into this week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So what you're watching is going to be first. Um, and what you're watching, you just tell me what good show you've been watching that you think the audience should watch. Um, so if you have something like that, be prepared to share it. I'm going to give it a few minutes before I start the fanfare and the such because I'm trying to see who I get in here. There's my sister, Lysandra Taylor. What's going on, girl? Welcome to the show. Welcome back home. You've been on MIA for a few days. uh, let's see. So I ain't got nobody at home just yet. Let's see. So while I'm waiting, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. It's finally cooling off here in Houston. Today was a pretty cool day because of the rain and all of that. Over the last few days, man, I'm telling you, sinus headache. My head felt like it was this big. Gosh, this is like it's just something. Whatever the allergens in the air are here is so different than back at home. I've never had allergic or sinusitis or allergic reactions the way that I have here. Bad. I'm setting things up while I'm talking. If you guys haven't noticed, uh I am stalling because I'm doing things. Okay, let's see. Well, what you watch? Anybody got anything new? You know what? Before we go into it, let's play the little fanfare. You know, I gotta play the fanfare. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something different that I watched this week. It was a show, and I can't do I think it? Yeah, it was recommended on Stream Something. Clarence recommended it. It is called The Outlaws. I keep getting it mixed up with Outer Range. It's called The Outlaws. That is one of the things that I watched on Amazon Prime Home Video. I mean Amazon Prime Video. Excellent series. It's a British series. Uh, it's about a little ragtag group of kind of degenerates, people who have gotten into a little criminal problems. And hey, Angus, you say I got things that need upsetting. Angus watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. Man, if I had some loot to rent that, I definitely would, because that was always on my radar as a movie that I wanted to see. People are saying that this multiverse movie is done better than anything that we've seen Marvel do here lately. We're talking Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange. They're saying that nothing touches Everything Everywhere All at Once. I definitely want to see that. So thank you for sharing that. You could give me a star rating, Angus. I would like to know what your opinion of the movie. I can't imagine it being bad. Can't imagine it being bad. I think that movie just smells good. Another one that I know Angus watched is The Northman. Another one that has been on my radar. I just can't rent it right now because it's like $20 a rental. But when it comes down, and if I got some money, I will be getting that one as well. So tell us, give us a star rating for both of those if you can, Angus. Give us Everything Everywhere All at Once, and give us a star rating for The Northman. There was another thing, and I'm telling you what other people have been watching because we have been sharing in the Discord that I continuously tell everybody to join because we have some fantastic conversations. We're going to get into a few of those here as well. But Clarence was talking about the Outer Range. Now, that was one that I was excited for. And he's like, if you ain't got to watch it, don't watch it. And I take his word for it. I might. I might try the first episode because I like Josh Brolin and I do like a Western every now and then. So I might try the first episode, but if the first episode sucks, then I'm just gonna move on. But that's it. That's all I've got for what you're watching, unless somebody else is going to add to the conversation. That's all I have, and I'm waiting to see what Angus has for us. But with that, and no further ado, I'm going to get into Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 3, The Ghosts of Illyria. Now, this one occurs on Stardate 1224.3. And I think I didn't pay attention to episode 1. I don't remember there being a star date, but in episode 1, Strange New Worlds, I don't remember if there was a star date, but I do remember the star date for episode 2, and that was 2912.4. So now we know this is not going in chronological order. This episode should have occurred before last week's episode. Okay. Angus says, as hallucinogenic as Everything Everywhere All at Once was, I give it a Jamie Lee Curtis out of Michelle Yeoh stars. The rating will make sense when you see it. Got you. Okay. Lysandra is saying that she's watching Savage Beauty on Netflix. Got you. I forgot. I'm watching The Lincoln Lawyer and I am enjoying it rather quite a bit. And then Angus said Northman was pretty good, 4 out of 5. I'm taking your word for it. Those are what you're watching. And now let's get back to Ghost of Illyria. Okay, so Ghost of Illyria, Stardate 1224.3, which is before Stardate 2912 from Children of the Comet. But okay, so we're going to the Persephone system, where the Enterprise is going to investigate the disappearance of a colony of Illyrians. And now Illyrians are a species that are banned by the Federation because of them being genetically engineered. So they're outcast from the Federation. And one of the things that was surprising to me is that their avoidance of genetic engineering was not just on Earth. They're not permitting people from any place who have been genetically engineered to join the Federation. So now an ion storm is approaching the planet where the landing party is, and this is a rather large landing party. The landing party consists of Pike, Spock, Una, Lance, and a few others. It's a big landing party. Everybody was separated. The ion storm was disrupting the signals of their communicators. So Pike went to go look for Spock. He told Una to take everybody else on up with her back to Enterprise. So okay. The members of the away team being back up to the ship, but there's a problem. There's a problem locking onto their signals. There's ion interference, but Himmer. Oh, hey there, Clarence. He said he keeps forgetting that Khan is in the future. Yeah, all of this. This is a weird series, only because it's obviously the only episode that we know is happening in the order that this is the first thing that happened is the first episode. Everything else seems like it might be all over the place. But anywho, so Himmer does his little magic because Himmer is a genius. Himmer is also extremely arrogant, and he does not move like with the same urgency that we have seen other chief engineers run around. Not Himmer. Himmer moves at his own pace. He gets things done at his own pace, but he gets it done. So this is what we have learned about that character thus far. He's good at what he does, but he ain't in no hurry, and he's not going to allow himself to be pressured. Okay. So where was I? As the ion storm approached, we got that. Pike and Spock get stuck down on the planet. Okay, number one has to eventually no members of the away team beam back to the ship, and we find out that they are have been exposed to some kind of virus down on the planet, and that it causes them to be addicted to light. It reminded me so much of the way the Naked Now and the Naked Time, the way those things occurred in the original series and in TNG. This is their version of that. It feels like where everybody's addicted to light and they're all doing weird shit to get their light fix. Even with what was his Lance? I don't remember what his rank was, but Lance kind of busted a window by headbutting it. Only after Ortega's, who I'm starting to agree with you guys. I love her so much. So Ortega's walks by him and she sees him kind of rubbing it. And she was like, "Don't you think that you should do that in your quarters?" And he was like, "Oh, I just feel so good," or something. And she was like, "Whatever tweaks your freak." I was tickled when she said, "Whatever tweaks your freak." Okay, but he busted a window open, and that's a no. That is, I guess, very frowned upon starships. Ortega's grabs him and calls security, and this is when we start to realize that we've got a problem. So where we at? Now, number one, Una, she went down on the planet as well. The problem is everybody else who went down on the planet has been stricken by this virus, but it doesn't seem that Una was affected. But we, the audience, saw in her room that she was, or her quarters, I'm sorry, in her quarters, she was very briefly affected by this virus, and then it went away. So that left us wondering, why is Una the only person who wasn't affected by this virus? I gotta go back though. And before I go back, I'm gonna pick up the comments. Clarence says that he keeps forgetting that Khan is in the future. Yes, he is. It's a not too distant future though, at least by this point. He also says he likes Himmer, very arrogant. Yeah, Himmer is a piece of work. Clarence also says he loved Uhura getting out of bed to see her rubies bathing in light. Right. She like, what the heck? What are y'all doing? That's her exact words. What are y'all doing? And yes, I agree with that too, Clarence. He said he also loved the lower decks vibe of her quarters. The vibe was definitely lower decks. And I felt that too. And I also, I guess it kind of made me long for some lower decks. So there's that. Going back, when Pike went back to get Spock, Una had first said, "You know what? I'll stay down here and go find Spock." And he said, "No, you go to the ship and take everybody else. I'll find Spock." Do you guys think that was intentional? That Pike said, "I'm going to grab Spock," because Pike knows that if he grabs Spock, that they're going to make it back up to the ship, because he already knows his fate, but he doesn't know Una's fate. So he knows that he's got 10 more years that he's going to survive because he's seen the future, his future. But he couldn't leave Una down there because he doesn't know her future. So he was concerned that he might lose her, but he knew he wasn't going to be lost in this ion storm. You get it? You got it? You good. So trapped in the storm, Pike and Spock determine that the colonists on that planet were attempting to reverse their genetic modifications so they could join the Federation. And then they might have accidentally created this virus, and then something else happened to them. We won't get into that just yet. We're going to go back to the ship. Everything is being done. This thing has now become airborne because it travels on light. So everybody is beginning to fall victim to the same virus, and there is no synthesizing a cure from Una's blood because her blood is bioengineered. Boom, boom, boom. That's right. We learned that Una is an Illyrian, and that Una has basically, she caught this virus, but her body beat it because that's what her body is designed to do. So she felt like, okay, we should be able to take my blood and synthesize a cure. But you can't do it because her body is so effective at fighting off any virus that it doesn't create antibodies. It just burns it out of their blood. So there's no trace of it left. So now Una is wondering to herself, well, how can I be of any help? I've just told my crewmates that I am Illyrian. So now they know I'm a bioengineered or being. And I can't even help the people that I care about. So there was that. Let me see. Back down on the planet, the ion storm is getting closer to where Spock and Pike are hiding out. Now, this ion storm is basically, it's deadly to organic matter. So they have to find a way to keep themselves encapsulated from being part of the storm. When they notice by looking out of a window in this library that they've taken refuge in, it's some strange shit going on outside this window. They see these beings made of light and they're flying and they look aggressive. They look like they in a hurry. So Spock and Pike barricade the door and are trying to keep these beings out. Little do they know that these beings are going to be the same beings that save their lives. Speaking of getting your life saved, everybody is dropping like flies on the ship. Is getting to the point where the medical staff say we have to sedate everybody, and it gets down to, oh wait, okay, I'll come back to, I forgot a point, but I'll come back to it. It's getting down to the only the only person that's going to be left is going to be Una. Now, there was a part in this where Hammer, because Hammer's a genius, we've learned, he attempts to transport part of the core of this planet onto the ship because he's addicted to light. So he's like, oh, this is the brightest light ever. This is the brightest light ever. I'm gonna transport it up here and I'm gonna bathe in this 10,000 kilowatt light. And Una sees him doing this. She has to incapacitate him. But my issue, and maybe one of you in the chat can tell me, if he could beam up the core of the planet, why couldn't they beam up Pike and Spock? Make me understand that. And I'm gonna pick up comments before I move on. Angus says this goes back to what La'an said about knowing that you're going to be good for survival. Yes, exactly. Clara said, I also think that Una holding back her true nature would have changed his decision to stay. Yes, she's basically kind of like Khan. Yeah. Knowing his fate is a strength. Yes. Omayo Design says Himmer, and Himmer was so impressed with himself. Absolutely. And Clarence said the cure is a bigger the cure. Oh, the core. The core is a bigger signature. Got it. I got it. So that makes sense. And I had another question. I'm gonna go to some of the things that we were saying over in the Discord with our conversation. But I asked the question in the Discord. Well, there's a part in this that I skipped, and it was talking about the transporters because they were trying to figure out how this virus made it onto the Enterprise in the first place. All the transporters are supposed to filter out any viruses or anything. So this obviously didn't happen. And now Hemmer, before he does this thing with the core, he's trying to figure out why. So he's trying to do work on all the transporters. And he said the diagnostics may take all night. So that line answered my question. The question was Mbanga. See, Mbanga was very protective of his medical transporter. He didn't want anybody touching or doing any diagnostics to it simply because he is storing a pattern in the buffer. This is like some freaking Scotty from TNG type ish. He's he's storing a pattern in the buffers. The pattern is of his little daughter who has for 1 year been battling this disease that would rapidly deteriorate her if she would continue to age. So he puts her in the buffer where she wouldn't age. He has to take her out and rematerialize her regularly, but he doesn't have to, but she won't age, and this will give him an opportunity to find a cure. Clarence said, I don't think I love Mbanga's story. It made him trust him less. Yeah, that was because he's done something very selfish. And he said, but I guess the episode was all about secrets. Yeah. And there's, given, well, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that as well. So we find out that those creatures down on the planet that are so aggressively trying to get into this library where Pike and Spock are actually trying to shield them from the storm. So these beings just wrap themselves around them and surround them in their energy, protecting them from the ion storm. And they went to great lengths to save the lives of these two people who represent the Federation. And the Federation is the same Federation that look down upon them for being biologically engineered. And Amayo says, I hope I'm saying your name, Omio or Amayo, says, basically a ship of rebels. Yes. And the thing is, it's consistent with the time. If this was true to life cowboy diplomacy, we saw it in the first couple of episodes. I mean, the first couple of seasons of Discovery. We saw it throughout TOS. Throughout TOS, they kind of did things their way, and because this is a series that's set in that same kind of time period, they are just the same way. Amaya says, Clarence says, yes, Amaya, love the depth to the characters, though. Exactly, because we definitely know a lot about these characters, far more than we've learned about the characters, and we've made this complaint several times before already. Far more than we know about the characters on Discovery. We know an awful lot about this crew in 3 episodes. So I like that. So they created this virus accidentally because they were trying to transform, they were trying to re-engineer themselves, take themselves all of their enhancements back so that they could join the Federation. But once everybody is cured, Pike and Spock return to the Enterprise, and number 1 attempts to resign. Now, before we get to number 1 attempting to resign, we got a good old girl fight. And the good girl fight was between La'an and Una. two people who we have come to realize are friends. But La'an, who woke up from her sedation before everybody else, and she tries to go and do something to the warp core so that she could bathe in the light because she loves the light. She's upset also. Now, she had already talked about how she had been made fun of, teased relentlessly for being related to Khan Noonien Singh. So she knows what it feels like to have these insults hurled at her, and how, she said herself, I had to develop thick skin. So immediately, because she knows how this feels, you would expect for her to treat Una differently. But instead, as soon as she learned Una's secret, she hurled those exact same insults. The ones that hurt her, she hurled those insults at Una. And that's what I wrote down when I saw her say that, hurt people hurt people. She hurt Una because now she felt better. She felt less than the people who were hurting her when she was younger. And now she feels like she's better than Una. And we got this fight, and the fight was good all the way up until the end, because all it took was a slap from Una, a slap from her, and the fight was over. Una did everything she could not to hit La'an, because she's like, shit, I can wreck you. So she tried not to hit her. She did everything that she was doing during the fight was defensive. She was, she put her hands up, she pushed, but she didn't swing, because she knew a swing, if she can lift Himmer, even though that Himmer doll was terrible. I don't have a picture. Did y'all see that Himmer doll though? That thing was terrible. So now, yes, Omayo, it was a slap. It was a slap, just like Will Smith and Chris Rock. Clara said, I also like that new bridge crew keep popping up. Yes, because people don't just work 24 hours a day. People are off at sometimes. There's a few others that Clarence hasn't seen yet. Clarence also says, I think we may also have seen the first all-women bridge. This is the first all-women bridge. But I told you, I had already gotten complaints from people that, now the whole bridge crew is going to be women. So I didn't pay attention to that in the first episode. But when I looked at the second episode, I was like, I see men. So I don't know. So, but this one was a full bridge crew of women. Yes, that slap did everything. And Angus said, Una hits hard, slaps. Una slaps. As the kids say. Okay, so what we learned though is that, I guess, number one, Una, her blood or her has a chimeric effect, her enhancements, where if she has developed a cure for something, that she can chimerically cure other people. And because that happened, and she recognized that La'an was no longer addicted to light, she was able to get to Nurse Chapel, who was able to synthesize a cure, who was able to inoculate the entire crew. Yay, crisis averted. We find out that Una, she feels a little bad about lying to everybody. Yeah, she wants to resign. And Pike says, no, and you let me worry about if Starfleet finds out. Basically saying, I am not going to tell Starfleet. I know you ain't going to tell Starfleet. So if Starfleet finds out that you are genetically engineered, I'll deal with it. I'm guessing that they didn't find out, because a part of me says that we would have never gotten Julian Bashir if Starfleet found out or that Una was augmented, because they would have started doing those types of genetic tests on individuals. We would have never gotten Julian Bashir. But then my question is, why were they not doing these types of genetic tests in the first place? Doesn't that seem a little counterintuitive to the point we are in history with Starfleet? Wouldn't you expect for them to be doing genetic tests on the individuals that are in Starfleet? That's a question that I had. So these we also got some very subtle messages. Again, just like Clarence said, this show was about secrets, but it was also kind of an allegory, and it might be hard to see right now. It's kind of an allegory about lumping all people together because one group of these types of people hurt you. For instance, on Earth, they created augments, and these augments went awry. They went awry. They decided they wanted to take over the whole planet, creating wars and death and just problems. And they were finally able to eradicate it from Earth. And they said, no more genetic engineering because shit went wrong when we did it. But to hold that against genetic engineering on a whole different planet, and you don't know the species intentions, that is a bit short-sighted. That is showing us where the Federation is in that moment. I'm feeling like almost like this is the third week that we could quote or we get a Martin Luther King type of reference. And that reference to me was, don't judge people by their genetic modifications, but by the content of their characters. And we know that Martin Luther King said, don't judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That goes all the way to outer space. We got to examine the content of their character. And then also, Mbanga spoke of bigotries. In his lifetime, he didn't have the old black and white or immigrants and Americans or whatever, all of that nationalism. He didn't have that. Their bigotries went to space. Human blood and Vulcan blood was not supposed to mix. That's one of the things that he said. Another thing that he said was now it's human blood and Illyrian blood are not supposed to mix. And he said, I don't care. All I want to do basically is help people. But he won't help people at the expense of his daughter. He's not willing to recognize the needs of the many versus the needs of the few. And I am with Clarence when he said that there is a loss of trust of Mbanga, even though number one is not going to rat him out, is going to help him keep his sick daughter in stasis until he can cure her from this disease that I can't pronounce. I saw it on the screen. I can't pronounce that. So she's going to give him power to do that. But then my question is, if it comes down to that transporter and the lives of many people on the ship again, will he make a better decision? And I don't trust him. And I want to. So hopefully his arc includes him regaining the trust of the audience, because I don't trust him now. Omayo says, I'm hoping we'll get Una's full story this season. I am too. There's no excuse why not, because at this point we see that they're doing these character studies for each episode. So why not explore more deeply what brought her to Starfleet? Why was it so important? And how did she get there? How did she fool everybody? I know she's like in a body that looks and presents very human, but how does she fool everybody? Yeah, because that would mean to me she would never have gotten sick. She would have regenerated quickly after injuries, because we saw her, even though episode 2 was chronologically after this episode 3, um, we saw her have a broken leg, or she said something happened to her when she was shot with some kind of weapon. And at that point, she was limping, she was incapacitated. So I would think though she would heal quickly, right? Yeah, I'm hoping we get a lot more of her backstory. It's going to be nice to know, and all of them, because Chapel. I'd like to know a little bit more about her story. The fact that she is a civilian working with Starfleet, and we know that moving forward, we're going to get her as a full Starfleet officer in TOS. I'd like to know. Um, and I don't know what you was agreeing with, Omayo, but yeah, I would think that. Oh, I think you were talking about, because I said the healing factor and all of those things. So yeah, I need to know, how that got past everybody, because it got past a lot of people. What else? It was, man, I don't know. I like this chapel too, Angus. Yes, I like this chapel because this chapel, and again, they were hampered and hindered by the time that TOS was made. For what they were doing in TOS, it was novel, it was unprecedented, it was something new, right? But now that, looking at it from a lens of where we are in not history, how where we are now as far as the patriarchy and that kind of thing goes, um, we're seeing that it's less about, again, the male gaze, or is less centered upon men, because truly Nurse Chapel just seemed like she really just lived to, number one, do everything that McCoy told her as far as being his nurse. But number two, she lived to just serve Spock. It seemed like she loved him. And there was a point where Uhura loved him. Not saying that if I was on a ship for 10 years with an individual that I might not get feelings, but that shouldn't be all that I know about this character. I should know more about the character than their longings for the male characters. And this chapel has a personality, and I like that. And yeah, is a sign of the times as well. What else was I going to say? Did y'all notice though? Speaking of male gaze and all of this and patriarchy, I'm about to just reduce some people down to uh me ogling them. There was some fine dudes. When the lights got the blink and then everybody stopped as they were walking through the corridors and then they started again. Man, there's some of them characters I'd like to get to know a little bit better. So yes, there's that. I'm trying to make sure I got everything that I wanted to say about this episode. And then I'm gonna go over here to what we were talking about in uh in our Discord, which if you're not a part of, I hope you join. Uh Say players, Kirk, Spock, Riker, and Yar. Yeah. Because it was some fun. They stopped me in my tracks. Um, where's there was another line that I loved when Pike says, "This place is fun. They should sell tickets." Oh gosh, it tickled me to death. I laughed so hard. I laughed harder than I had any business doing. So Ortega's with whatever tweaks your freak, and Pike with "this place is fun. They should sell tickets." Both of those fun, really funny to me, very funny. The COVID vibes, we felt that, right? Lockdown, level 5, essential personnel only. I was like, oh, is this too soon or what? So those are my notes. I don't think I have anything else. So let's go to my Discord. Some of the funny stuff that we were saying, and after watching it again, some of the questions that we had do have answers. So let's go. And also, yay for Star Trek Strange New Worlds for being the top streaming series ever. I mean, not ever, but at least for now. For right now, Strange New Worlds is the top streaming series, and it has an outstanding Rotten Tomatoes score, the highest of any Star Trek. It is at 98% from the critics, 82% from the audience, and I can bet you that some of the 82% from the audience would probably be higher, but I bet you some of the haters of the new Trek stuff is they brought the score down. I'm willing to bet. Okay, so Angus was talking about TOS introducing us to beings of energy and nothing else. So Strange New Worlds, this episode expanded upon that with a disease that is pure energy, and that's cool. But Angus was surprised that Una's enhanced biology was at all effective against it, but who the hell knows how any of it works on either side of that equation. That's where she said, she was bioengineered to eradicate unknown pathogens, so her immune system just burns the virus up. So that's what we learned. Another comment from Angus. He said Mbanga basically invented a medical stasis field before Scotty ever pulled his magic trick to survive 70-ish years near that Dyson sphere. Medical stasis would have evacuated all the drama from a lot of sickbay stories in TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager. You get the idea. Heck, even Discovery seasons 3 and 4. Medical stasis is a big effing deal technology. It will send quakes through medicine and society. When it was a one-off miracle that it worked at all with Scotty, no big deal. But now, yikes. Now, I do have a question. And maybe one of you guys have an answer. My question is, would Khan and his group of the last little respite of the augments, at this point, would they be in cryostasis floating off into space? And what about those people from was it Deep Space Nine? No, it was TNG. What series was it where there was another group of people who had been placed in cryostasis, but these were civilians? They had been placed in cryostasis and they were floating out in space. Can you guys tell me, would this series have occurred before those things happen or after? Because in my opinion, the Botany Bay should already be floating in space. We should already have cryostasis, which would make putting her in this Mbanga, putting his daughter in this pattern buffer, it would make it unnecessary because they have cryostasis. So if you guys have an answer to that, I'd like to hear it. Me and Clarence were talking about how we are woefully being left behind because we do content, and Clarence has been consistent, far more consistent than me, because I don't think he's crazy and I'm nuts. So he has been consistent for some years now with producing content. So if you are not subscribed, following Clarence's podcast, and it's a Star Trek show discussing Trek, please do that, because I think he deserves even more than myself. And that's a big effing deal for me to admit that he has worked harder with his craft for longer than I have. And it's time that we get this man some recognition. Okay, so now, yeah, and this Angus also, he was the one who made me think about the fact that Starfleet doesn't have genetic profiles on its officers, and we wonder to ourselves why. That's weird. Angus also said Mbanga needs to cure his daughter in the next 2 seasons or she'll have to be recast. People don't age in medical stasis. Absolutely. So, again, this is one thing that we know we kind of back ourselves into corners when we do stuff like this, but it's okay because cute little kids are all, we would forgive a different little cute kid showing up. Um, so, oh, Angus also said transporting through an ion storm for a second there he thought that Strange New Worlds was going to the mirror universe, and I thought that we were going to see a body swap, that when they came or when they got when they Lord, when they got transported back to the ship, that everybody would be all mixed up and everybody would be in each other's body. That's what I thought. I'm glad it was something different, and I like where they went with it. Let me see what Angus says here. Yes, they're on a sleeper ship, slow boating through space. Cold sleep is dangerous enough for healthy people. Sick folks are high risk. Okay, I get it. That makes sense. I get it. Um, okay. So Clarence was talking about Mbanga periodically pulling his daughter out to reset her. He still thinks that prolonged transporter buffer is sketchy. Also, may be a call forward to how sometime in the future Kirk will wake Khan from his long travel stasis pod. It's amazing that Lon doesn't know her relative is somewhere out there floating around. So that answered the question as well. And that answer is there for May 19th. I just didn't read it. I have been, it's a lot of stuff going on. Y'all know I got problems. So yeah. Um, Okay, Clarence says there was also a TNG episode when the prisoners were trapped in an ion storm and tried to take over the ship. Uh, it might have been an electromagnetic storm. Power play TNG season 5, episode 15. Let's see. And then, of course, I'm going to ask a question like, okay, if Mbanga pulls her out, his daughter, periodically, couldn't he have pulled her out while they were doing transporter upgrades or whatever? So this episode again wasn't a deal breaker for me. It did ask a lot of questions. One more thing. Um where is it? I lost it. Angus was saying he does want to see the bad versions of Una and Laan. Unfortunately, I think again we are boxed in by canon. That we know that this never happened before Kirk and Spock, because if that was the case, the Spock would know. And again, well, Spock would have known exactly what was going on when it happened on in the original series, if he had already experienced it in Strange New Worlds. And also, shouldn't he know who Khan Noonien Singh is, because of serving with Laan Noonien Singh? So that's another question I have. Again, if they give me answers, if they don't, it's not a deal breaker for me. It's just questions that these questions are going to present themselves because we don't we don't know. They're going to present themselves. These questions are going to be there. So that is all I got for today. That is it. That is all. So, do you guys have anything else? If so, let me know down in the comments. If not, we're going to call it one. I am recommending highly, if you have Amazon Prime, please watch The Outlaws. Number one, Christopher Walken is in it. And I forgot how much I love him, despite the fact that we know that whole thing from with what was her name? Natalie. Oh gosh, Natalie Wood. If even though that is still out there and we don't know exactly what happened to her, and he was present for that. Uh, I love Christopher Walken, and I really and truly enjoyed him in that series. I am such a proponent for if they are able to bring a character or an actor back and let him play to his strong points in his older age, let's do it. Let's do it. Um, Angus says, when does discussing Trek drop? You can look for that on Wednesdays. I can't tell you the time, but Wednesdays, because sometimes it'll be there early and I'll listen to it early, and sometimes it won't. But Wednesdays it'll be there. Okay. Um, and pay attention to when you look at your faves, your podcast faves. There's a podcast that is about sobriety, and on Spotify, for some reason, they're advertising Wild Turkey whiskey or whatever that stuff is on it, and I'm like, that is not that's not good. So pay attention if you see that they're on the podcast or anywhere that there is something being advertised that is just completely against what the podcaster stands for. Let them know so they can get that shit taken down, because we had to tell the people, the sobriety podcast, that they're advertising liquor on your podcast. Isn't that sad? That's sad. Anywho, I don't have anything else. It's been fun. Hopefully, next week we'll have two series. And next week is when things get funny, because I'm going to Indiana. God, I hope I can get my ass on that plane. I'm going to Indiana to watch my niece graduate from the 8th grade into high school, and my nephew is graduating from high school and he's taking his steps out into the real world. So I'll be there rooting them on and congratulating them on their achievements. So that means it might not be a show. Might not be a show. Yeah, Angus, two shows, because we got next week we've got Strange New Worlds, and then Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. So next week it'll be Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. And then we pushing into Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ms. Marvel. Things are about to ramp up for the summer for Stream Something Sundays. So hopefully you guys are along for the ride. It has been so much fun. Thanks for joining me. And if you don't have anything else, I don't either. It was good to see some new faces in the place. Hopefully you join us again next week. I'll see everybody in the next one. Peace.